I put out a take yesterday for Jaire Alexander, and I was like, it's a no-brainer. If you sign him, it's a 1-year deal. It's a 2-year deal with a player option after 1 year, or I guess I should say with a team option after 1 year. I totally understand if a fan is against bringing Trey Hendrickson here or bringing Terry McLaurin here. I get it. They're going to get gobs of money. They are a little bit older. I remember my guy Brian yesterday, who's a watcher of the show. He mentioned to me, he's going to be 30 by the time the season starts, Terry McLaurin. I'm not sure if that's true, but I'm sure it sounds right, and it doesn't really matter. I totally get if you are someone that says no to Trey Hendrickson or no to Terry McLaurin. They're a little bit older, they're going to cost a lot of money, and probably a premium pick. Do you necessarily want to do that? Probably not. Now, if you're going for it, and you think this team could be awesome next year, I get that as well. But I can totally buy the argument of the Arizona Cardinals shouldn't go get McLaurin or shouldn't go get Hendrickson because of the age, because of the price tag, because of what you're going to have to pay him when he gets here. I don't understand the Jaire Alexander thing. I really don't. And the reasoning for that is Jaire Alexander makes no money right now, right? Now, he's going to cost 1 year $15 million, maybe $12 million, $18 million now I'm thinking about it. I just don't know how many teams could afford that. But 1 year, $12 million, $14 million. I understand he's not a Monty Ossenfort guy. I totally get that argument, guys. He's a little cocky, a little outspoken, often injured. Those things say no for Jaire Alexander as a Cardinal. But at some point, the talent outweighs the distractions. And if it's a 1 year deal, 1 year, $12 million, right? Maybe I overshot the moon a little bit at $18 million. But if it's 1 year, $12 million, guys, he was a certified top 5 corner like 3 years ago. And you say to yourself, well, yeah, he's 31 now. That's why. Well, no, he's 28. In fact, he won't turn 29 until after this NFL season. He's very much in his athletic prime. Now, is he often injured? Sure. But it's a position that you would want some depth at. Maybe outside of offensive line and defensive line, you want some depth at the cornerback position. Now, the Cardinals have depth at the defensive line. Offensive line, I'm a little worried about. But if you can pair Jaire Alexander with Max Melton and Starling Thomas and Will Johnson and Garrett Williams and Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson, I would be all for it. It's just too low of a risk with too high of a floor to fail, or too high of a chance to succeed for you. If it blows up in your face, let's say he's a distraction and you gave him $12 million. Cut him by the end of the season. Who cares? Trade him by the trade deadline. Someone will be interested for a 7th round pick to take him back. But the upside is he's awesome. He mentors Will Johnson. He mentors Garrett Williams to some extent, who's still who's already pretty good. Max Melton. And Jonathan Gannon, who is a Louisville alma mater, Jaire Alexander, Louisville alma mater, maybe there's that connection there. And Jonathan Gannon's bread and butter is the defensive backs. That's what he started off coaching when he started his NFL coaching career years ago. He understands defensive backs. So for me, it just goes to show that it might be a perfect fit here. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Arizona Cardinals end up going down that route. It's just someone who I think makes way too much sense for the Arizona Cardinals right now in their stage of trying to win. So ultimately, if you're a Cardinals fan who's against someone to the stature of Jaire Alexander's ability, I don't get it. And I understand that maybe you're a Cardinals fan who's been scorned before by Monty Ossenfort by Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Wilkes and all these coaches before who were throwing Band-Aids on players. I totally get that, guys. Don't think I'm crazy. But this is not the same regime. They're not reliant on old players who are over the hill to get them over the hump. They're just bringing in guys who could be the icing to the cake. Not the cake, but maybe some really tasty icing. And that goes to show that a little bit further down the list. So Jermaine Pratt yesterday, the linebacker from the Cincinnati Bengals, was released. And I got to be just fully honest with you guys. I don't know a ton about Jermaine Pratt. I did a little bit of research on him before. What I do know is he was on the Super Bowl defense years ago for the Cincinnati Bengals. And he was a third-round pick. So it's not like he was a super late pick. He was a day 2 guy. It's his 6th season. He's 28 years old, I think he is. So he's someone who's not necessarily young, but that's someone as well who I would bring in if I was the Arizona Cardinals. He's 29 years old. He's on the back 9 of his career. It's just somewhere where I think you have an opening as well. The middle linebacking core has never mattered less in the NFL. So if the Cardinals don't swoop up Jermaine Pratt, I totally get it. The Cardinals are starting Mack Wilson at linebacker this year. And last year they started Mack Wilson and Kaiser White. And they were perfectly fine. It wasn't ever seen as a massive weakness for this team. I care about the linebacker position, but it is legitimately the last place on the defense that I care about. It doesn't matter as much anymore. But Jermaine Pratt, 80 tackles last year on who was one of the better players on a just abysmal, just awful Bengals defense. I'd say bring him in. I don't know what it's going to cost. Is it going to be a 1 year, $6 million deal? And maybe that's who you decide over Jaire Alexander. Great. But I want the Cardinals to continue to remain aggressive. I want them to continue to build on this defense. And the reason why, even though I believe this Cardinals defense is awesome, but the reason why I want them to continue to add pieces is because the more and more I think about this Cardinals season, the more and more I think to myself, this team is going to be based off the run game and playing stifling defense. That is not an indictment on Kyler Murray. If anything, it's an indictment on Drew Petzing. This is not going to be a throw the ball downfield 30 times offense. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play defense. And to be fair, that's like the best way to beat the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Keep those guys on the side of the field. Run the ball, play stifling defense. So those are 2 guys I'd bring in. Jermaine Pratt, 29, Jaire Alexander, 28. They're not going to cost anything to actually bring them here in terms of a trade asset. You just have to sign it to a deal. And after 1 year, the money goes away. You're just using your money for this year. You get the money back at the end of next year. Their contracts, when they're 1 year deals, don't go into a second year. That's not how money works. I get being conservative. I get being someone who's like scorned because Steve Keim was an idiot and a drunk and never did anything correct, and Cliff Kingsbury was dumb. Like, I get that. However, at some points, you do have to go get guys to help kind of put you over the top a little bit. I bet you the Cardinals in 2015 wish they did that. And as well as, guys, you got to be ready for the NFL season. You got to be ready for the impossible. Did anyone think in 2008 the Cardinals were going to go to the Super Bowl? We have improbable Super Bowl runs all the time. What if the Cardinals are awesome this year? What if they go to the conference championship game or they go to the divisional round and they're burned by a couple of really good wide receivers? You're going to say to yourself, damn, I wish we would have gotten Trey Hendrickson, or damn, I wish we would have gotten Jaire Alexander, or damn, I wish we would have gotten Jermaine Pratt. I do think the Cardinals can be a Super Bowl contender. Is it likely? No. Like, not at all. The standard for this team should just be playoffs. And I think that they will be a playoff team. But I do think they can be a Super Bowl team. Not because of what they do. Yes, a combination of them winning a bunch of games this year because their schedule is easy and getting a high seed in the playoffs, and that can help you out. Great. But what I'm saying is the NFL season is so unpredictable. Players could get injured. It could be your time to shine like that. And you got to be ready to strike because the NFL season is weird. It is unforgiving. Injuries happen. Things go crazy. So, no, probably not making the Super Bowl, probably not making the conference championship game. But to act like it's impossible, especially with the roster you have, is crazy. So I get being conservative. But put it all on red at some point, right? You're going to have to go all in at some point, and this isn't even that. These are adding key veteran players who can help you. So I get being a little tense and worrisome about what the Cardinals are doing, but what I would say is lean into it. Lean into it. Because this season could be crazy. What if Mahomes and Hurts and Stafford, like all these guys get injured? And you're left with one of the better quarterbacks in the NFC because the NFC is not very good? Let's say you make the Super Bowl. Crazier things have happened, just so we're clear. You're going to wish you spent the extra money on Jermaine Pratt and Jaire Alexander. I get not being too crazy with Terry and Trey Hendrickson. I totally get that. But these guys aren't going to cost you anything in terms of assets. It's just money. And at the end of the year, you get the money back. It doesn't roll over into the 2026 season.